My name is Amanda Wilson, and at 28, I thought I understood the unspoken rules of family loyalty. For 12 years, I dutifully deposited money into our family emergency fund, believing it would be there when any of us truly needed it. When my doctor found a tumor that required immediate surgery, I never imagined my parents would deny me access to the very safety net I helped build. But what shocked me more was discovering they planned to give my portion to my brother Jason for a new car. Before I continue my story, if you are watching this, please comment where you are from and subscribe to hear how I finally stood up for myself. I grew up in a middle-class neighborhood in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where my parents Robert and Barbara Wilson raised me and my younger brother Jason in a modest 3-bedroom home. My childhood was comfortable enough, but from an early age I noticed subtle differences in how my parents treated us. Nothing I could definitively point to as favoritism, just small moments that accumulated over time like sediment in a river. After graduating with my marketing degree from Penn State, I was fortunate to land a position at Horizon Marketing, a regional company where I have worked for the past 6 years. I have built a decent career there recently, being promoted to senior marketing coordinator. The job pays well enough for me to afford my 1-bedroom apartment and cover my monthly expenses, but between student loan payments and the rising cost of living in Pittsburgh, saving substantial amounts has been challenging. 3 years ago, I met Michael Thompson at a friend's birthday party. He works as a software developer for a local tech company, and from our first conversation about our shared love of true crime podcasts, we connected immediately. Michael is kind, supportive, and the first person in my life who truly listens when I speak. He has been my rock through everything that happened. The family emergency fund that became the center of this story was established when I was 16 years old. My father lost his job at the steel company where he had worked for 15 years, and our family struggled financially for several months. We nearly lost our home before he found a new position. The experience terrified my parents, and once they stabilized, they created what they called the Wilson Family Safety Net. The concept was simple: each family member would contribute whatever they could every month into a joint savings account. The money would remain untouched until someone faced a genuine emergency job loss, natural disaster, serious illness, or something similarly catastrophic. My parents explained that this fund would ensure we would never again face losing our home or going without necessities. From my first part-time job at 17 scooping ice cream, I contributed faithfully. Even when I was in college working minimum wage jobs, I sent home $50 to $100 monthly for the fund. After graduating and starting at Horizon, I increased my contribution to $300 monthly. Over 12 years, my deposits totaled approximately $24,000, more than half of the fund's current $45,000 balance. My brother Jason, 2 years younger than me, took a different approach to life. While I was expected to maintain straight, as Jason squeaked by with C's and was still praised. My parents bought me secondhand clothes while Jason received designer brands. I shared a bedroom with storage boxes while Jason had the larger room with a gaming setup. When college came, I cobbled together scholarships and loans while my parents covered Jason's tuition entirely. The pattern continued into adulthood. When Jason wrecked his car while driving uninsured, my parents paid for repairs. When he spent his rent money on a vacation to Cancun, they covered his housing costs. When he was evicted from an apartment for repeated noise violations, they paid his deposit on a new place. For each of these emergencies, family money flowed freely. Meanwhile, I lived carefully within my means, rarely asking for help. I took pride in my independence, even as I continued contributing to the family fund. I believed in its purpose, and trusted that if I ever truly needed it, the safety net would be there for me. 3 months ago, I began experiencing persistent abdominal pain. At first, I dismissed it as stress or perhaps a minor infection. When it did not subside after 2 weeks, I finally visited my doctor. After initial tests, she referred me to a specialist who ordered an ultrasound and then an MRI. The results showed a tumor on my right ovary, approximately the size of a tennis ball. The specialist Dr. Winters explained that while the tumor showed characteristics that were likely benign, its size and some concerning features meant surgical removal was necessary within 2 months. She could not rule out malignancy until after removal and biopsy. The uncertainty was terrifying. I sat in my car in the hospital parking lot after that appointment, staring at the paperwork. My insurance would cover 70% of the procedure, but I would still need approximately $15,000 for my deductible copays and to cover unpaid leave during recovery. Under normal circumstances, I might have had enough savings, but 2 months earlier, a pipe had burst in the apartment above mine, flooding my bedroom and requiring me to replace furniture and electronics. My emergency fund had been depleted. As I drove home from the hospital, the realization came naturally. This was exactly why we created the Family Emergency Fund. A potentially cancerous tumor requiring urgent surgery was the definition of an emergency. With my contributions making up more than half the fund, I would only need a fraction of what I had put in over the years. I called my parents that evening and arranged to visit them for Sunday dinner to discuss something important. I felt nervous but not worried. This was precisely the situation our family had prepared for. Sunday arrived with gray skies and a light drizzle that matched my uneasy mood. I arrived at my parents' home carrying a folder containing my medical documents and wearing a smile that felt increasingly forced as my stomach knotted with both physical pain and growing anxiety. The house smelled of pot roast and potatoes, a Sunday tradition since my childhood. My mother Barbara greeted me with a hug, her floral perfume familiar and usually comforting. Today it felt cloying, almost suffocating. My father Robert sat in his usual recliner, barely looking up from the football game to acknowledge my arrival. Jason had not been invited, as I had specifically asked to speak with just my parents about a personal matter. "You look pale, Amanda," my mother said as she ushered me into the dining room. "Are you getting enough sleep? You work too many hours at that marketing place." "That is actually related to what I need to discuss with you both," I replied, settling into my usual chair at the oak dining table that had been in our family since before I was born. The scratches on its surface marked family dinners, holiday celebrations, and countless arguments over the years. When my father finally joined us, turning down the volume on the game, but not fully turning it off, my mother brought out the pot roast. She insisted we eat before discussing my news, claiming that everything is better on a full stomach. I picked at my food, the pain medication I had taken earlier dulling my appetite, and the anxiety about the coming conversation tightening my throat. "So what is this important matter?" my father finally asked as my mother served apple pie for dessert. "You are not pregnant, are you? Because Michael should be taking responsibility if that is the case." "No, Dad, I am not pregnant," I said, pulling the medical folder from my purse. "I have been having some health issues. I went to the doctor and they found a tumor on my ovary." My mother gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. "Cancer? Oh my goodness, Amanda." "They do not know yet if it is cancerous," I explained, passing the radiology reports across the table, "but it needs to be removed soon, within the next 2 months." My father barely glanced at the documents before pushing them back toward me. "And what do the doctors suggest?" "Surgery is the only option," I explained. "The tumor is too large for other treatments, and they need to remove it to determine if it is malignant." My mother reached for my hand across the table, her eyes showing genuine concern. "Oh, sweetheart, how are you feeling? Are you in pain?" "Yes, some," I admitted. "But the bigger issue right now is the cost. My insurance will cover most of it, but I still need about $15,000 for the deductible copays and to cover the time I will need off work for recovery." The atmosphere in the room shifted immediately. My father sat straighter, crossing his arms over his chest. My mother withdrew her hand from mine, her expression changing from concern to something more guarded. "That is a lot of money," my father said, his tone cooling significantly. "I know," I replied. "That is why I wanted to talk about using some of the Family Emergency Fund. This is exactly the kind of situation we created it for, and I have put in over $24,000 over the years." A heavy silence fell over the table. My parents exchanged a look I recognized from childhood, the one that preceded a united front against whatever I was asking for. "Amanda," my father finally said, "everyone has health issues at your age. It is probably not as serious as you think. I stared at him in disbelief. Dad, I have an 8-centimeter tumor that could be cancerous. How is that not serious? What your father means, my mother interjected, is that these things often turn out to be nothing. My friend Diane had a scare like this, and it was just a cyst that went away on its own. This is not a cyst, I said firmly, tapping the medical report. Dr. Winters is one of the top gynecological surgeons in Pittsburgh. She says it needs to come out, and soon. My father shook his head. The emergency fund is for real emergencies, Amanda. House fires, long-term unemployment, catastrophic events. A tumor is not catastrophic. I could hear my voice rising despite my efforts to stay calm. You have a good job with insurance, my father countered. Can you not put it on a credit card, or get one of those medical payment plans? The unfairness of the situation was beginning to dawn on me. When Jason wrecked his car because he was driving without insurance, you gave him money from the fund. How was that more of an emergency than potential cancer? That was different, my mother said quickly. He needed transportation to get to job interviews. And when he spent his rent money on that vacation to Cancun, or when he got evicted for having parties, were those emergencies? Amanda, stop being dramatic, my father said. Those were small amounts to help your brother through temporary difficulties. What you are asking for is a significant portion of the fund. A significant portion of the fund that I contributed to, I reminded him. More than half of that money came from me from every paycheck for 12 years. That is not how the fund works, my father said, his voice hardening. Your mother and I decide how that money is used. That has always been the arrangement. I thought the arrangement was that it would be there for any of us in a genuine emergency, I said, feeling tears threatening, and I cannot think of anything more genuine than surgery for a tumor. My mother's expression softened slightly. Amanda, honey, why not talk to the hospital about a payment plan, or perhaps a personal loan? Your credit is good, is it not? I could not believe what I was hearing. After years of watching my brother receive financial help for situations of his own making, I was being denied assistance for a legitimate medical crisis. So, that is it. No discussion, no consideration of the fact that this could be cancer, that I have been in pain for weeks, that I have faithfully contributed to this fund for 12 years while watching Jason take from it repeatedly. You have a good job, my father repeated, standing up to signal the end of the conversation. Figure it out yourself, we all have problems. I sat frozen at the table as he walked back to the living room and turned up the volume on the football game. My mother began clearing dishes, avoiding my eyes. Mom, I said quietly, please, this is important. She paused, plates in hand. I am sorry, Amanda, but your father has made up his mind, and truthfully, I think he is right. You have always been so independent. I am sure you will find a way to handle this. I left their house in tears, the pain in my abdomen nothing compared to the ache in my chest. As I drove to Michael's apartment, rain now falling heavily, I called him to explain what had happened. They said no, for cancer surgery. His disbelief matched my own. After everything you have put into that fund, they do not think it is a real emergency, I said, my voice breaking. Dad said everyone has health problems. Michael was silent for a moment, and I could sense his anger building. Amanda, this is beyond unfair. Have you considered talking to a lawyer? That account has your name on it too, right? Yes, but I always understood my parents had final say on distributions. That might not be legally binding, he said. My friend Allison practices family law. Let me text her. I do not want to sue my parents, Michael, I said, pulling into his apartment complex. I just want them to reconsider, to see that this is exactly what the fund was created for. And if they do not, he asked as I parked. I had no answer for that as I turned off the engine, rain drumming on the roof of my car, matching the tears now flowing freely down my cheeks. The week following my parents' rejection brought not only increasing physical discomfort but a deepening sense of betrayal that seemed to intensify the pain. By Wednesday, I found myself taking maximum doses of the prescribed pain medication just to make it through workdays at Horizon Marketing. My supervisor Diane noticed my pale complexion and frequent trips to the bathroom. Amanda, maybe you should take some time off until your surgery, she suggested during our afternoon meeting. Your projects can wait. I cannot afford to, I admitted. I need to save my sick days for the recovery period. I did not tell her that the surgery was not even scheduled yet because I could not make the required deposit. My follow-up appointment with Dr. Rachel Winters came on Thursday afternoon. The new CT scan results made my heart sink further. The tumor has grown another centimeter since your last scan, Dr. Winters explained, pointing to the images on her computer screen. This rate of growth is concerning. I really want to get you into surgery within the next 3 weeks, rather than waiting the full 2 months we initially discussed. What happens if we wait longer? I asked already, knowing I could not afford to move the timeline up. Her expression grew serious. There is an increased risk of the tumor rupturing, which would create a medical emergency and potentially spread cancerous cells if it turns out to be malignant. Additionally, the larger it grows, the more complex the surgery becomes, and the greater the risk to your ovary. I nodded numbly, thanking her for the information. In my car after the appointment, I called my mother, hoping the worsening medical news might change her position. Mom, I just got out of my appointment with Dr. Winters, I said when she answered. The tumor is growing faster than they expected. She wants to operate sooner. Oh, my mother replied, her tone distracted. Well, that is concerning. Have you looked into those payment plans I mentioned? Mom, please. I need help. This is getting serious. Amanda, we have been through this. Your father has made his decision. Before I could respond, she changed the subject entirely. Did I tell you Jason got a promotion at work? He is now a senior sales representative. We are so proud of him. The conversation continued with her detailing Jason's accomplishments, while my medical crisis was treated as an inconvenient footnote. I hung up feeling invisible in my own family. The next day, I met my best friend Stephanie Clark for lunch at a cafe near my office. After listening to the whole story, her normally cheerful face contorted with indignation. This is complete bullshit, Amanda, she said, not bothering to lower her voice. After all these years of watching them hand money to Jason like he is a prince, and they are the royal treasury, for a tumor, are they waiting for you to be on your deathbed? I do not know what to do, Steph, I admitted. The surgery deposit alone is $5,000 that I do not have, and I cannot wait much longer, according to Dr. Winters. Stephanie set down her sandwich, her expression shifting from anger to calculation. You said you are on the account, right? Can you check the activity online, see what is going on with it? I had never considered this. I guess I could. I have the login information. We all do for transparency. Do it now, she urged, pushing my phone toward me. Back at my desk after lunch, I logged into the joint account from my work computer. The balance remained at $45,326, but something caught my eye. There were several recent account inquiries and status checks initiated by my parents. This was unusual. The account typically sat untouched for months at a time. Concerned, I called the bank during my afternoon break. Yes, Miss Wilson, there have been several inquiries about withdrawal procedures and balance confirmations in the past week, the customer service representative confirmed after verifying my identity. Would you like me to tell you who made those inquiries? Yes, please, I said, though I already knew. It looks like Robert Wilson visited the branch on Monday, and Barbara Wilson called our service line on Tuesday. I thanked the representative and hung up, my mind racing. Why would my parents suddenly be checking withdrawal procedures right after denying my request? A sickening possibility began to form in my mind. The next morning, I called in sick to work and drove to the First National Bank where our family account was held. I needed to speak with someone in person. The branch manager, Margaret Johnson, a kind-faced woman in her 50s, agreed to meet with me. Miss Wilson, I remember your parents from earlier this week, she said, after I explained my concerns. They were inquiring about making a rather large withdrawal in the coming days. How large? I asked, my throat tightening. I am not supposed to disclose this, but since you are a joint account holder, she hesitated before continuing. They discussed withdrawing $30,000. They mentioned something about a major purchase coming up. $30,000. More than my entire contribution to the fund. My head spun with the implications. As I sat in my car in the bank parking lot trying to process this information, a text message from Jason arrived. "Check out these sweet rides, Mom and Dad. Said they might help with that Audi I have been eyeing, finally moving up in the world." Attached were photos of several luxury vehicles at a local dealership, all with price tags well above what Jason could afford on his salary, even with his recent promotion. The Audi A5 he had circled in the image had a sticker price of $34,000. The pieces clicked together with nauseating clarity. My parents had denied my request for $15,000 for cancer surgery, claiming it was not a true emergency, while simultaneously planning to give my brother $30,000 for a luxury car. The realization hit me with such force that I found myself struggling to breathe. The unfairness was so blatant, so cruel, that it transcended mere favoritism. This was active harm choosing to prioritize Jason's desire for status over my physical well-being. I sat hyperventilating in the parking lot until a security guard tapped on my window asking if I needed help. Unable to explain, I simply started my car and drove, not really knowing where I was going. The pain in my abdomen had intensified either from the growing tumor or the stress crushing down on me. I ended up at an urgent care center where a concerned doctor measured my blood pressure at 170/95. "This is dangerously high," she told me. "What is going on in your life right now? Are you under unusual stress?" I laughed bitterly, the sound foreign to my own ears. "You could say that." She prescribed medication for the elevated blood pressure and advised me to see my primary doctor immediately. "Whatever is causing this stress is physically harming you," she warned. "Your body cannot sustain this level of distress." Another medical bill, another prescription, another concern on top of the tumor growing inside me. That evening, Michael and I spent hours researching loan options, each more depressing than the last. My credit score was good, but my debt-to-income ratio was too high for a medical loan due to my student debt. Personal loans offered interest rates that would have me paying back nearly double the amount borrowed. Surgery was now recommended within 3 weeks, and I had no viable financial solution. As I lay in bed that night, the pain medication barely taking the edge off, I wondered how my life had come to this. I had done everything right, followed every rule, met every expectation, and yet here I was, abandoned by the very safety net I had helped create. The next morning, I received an unexpected text from my mother: "Family dinner tonight at 6. Important matters to discuss. Please come." For a fleeting moment, hope flickered in my chest. Perhaps they had reconsidered. Perhaps the maternal instinct had finally overcome whatever favoritism had clouded her judgment. Michael was skeptical. "Do not get your hopes up," he cautioned, as he helped me get ready, seeing how the pain made even simple tasks difficult. If they were changing their minds, would they not just tell you? "Maybe they want to do it in person," I suggested, clinging to optimism despite everything. "Maybe they realized how serious this is." "I will keep my phone on," he said, kissing my forehead. "Call me if you need a rescue." I arrived at my parents' house to find Jason's shiny used BMW already in the driveway, alongside a car I did not recognize. Inside, I discovered not just my family but also Jason's new girlfriend, Taylor, a pretty blonde I had met only once at a previous family gathering. She worked at the same sales company as Jason, though she had been there much longer. Amanda, my mother, greeted me with unusual enthusiasm. "You remember Taylor, do not you? She and Jason have been together for 3 months now." The small talk that followed was excruciating. We discussed the weather, my parents' garden plans, and Taylor's recent promotion at work, while carefully avoiding any mention of my health or the family fund. I noticed my father seemed particularly jovial, refilling wine glasses and laughing too loudly at Jason's mediocre jokes. As my mother served her signature apple cobbler for dessert, Jason suddenly produced a stack of glossy brochures, spreading them across the dining table. "So, what do you think, the Audi A5 or the BMW 3 Series?" he asked, pointing to the specifications. "The Audi has better acceleration, but the BMW has that prestige factor, you know." My stomach clenched, and not from the tumor. "You are buying a new car." Jason grinned, oblivious to my distress. Hopefully by next week, the dealer is holding the Audi I test drove. Magnetic gray exterior, black leather interior, sport package, premium sound system. It is sweet. My father cleared his throat dramatically, setting down his dessert spoon. Actually, that is part of why we wanted to have this family dinner. Your mother and I have an announcement to make. My mother smiled, placing her hand over my father's on the table. We have been discussing the family emergency fund and we have made a decision. The hope that had been flickering in my chest extinguished completely. We have decided, my father continued, that it makes sense at this time to reallocate some of those resources. Jason has this wonderful opportunity with his new position, and reliable transportation is essential for a sales career. We see this as an investment in his future. We are planning to withdraw $30,000 on Monday to help Jason purchase the Audi, my mother added. With his trade-in value on his current car, it should cover most of the cost. The room seemed to tilt around me. They were not even attempting to disguise what they were doing. They were openly taking money I had contributed for a genuine emergency and giving it to my brother for a luxury vehicle. What about my surgery? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. What about the tumor? An uncomfortable silence fell over the table. Taylor shifted in her seat, looking down at her plate. Jason rolled his eyes slightly, as if I was bringing up an inconvenient topic at an otherwise pleasant dinner. Amanda, my mother began delicately, we have discussed this. Your situation, while concerning, is not life-threatening according to what you told us. And Jason's need for an Audi is— I could not keep the bitterness from my voice. This opportunity at work is time-sensitive, my father interjected. The company car program has been delayed, and he needs to make a good impression with clients immediately. First impressions matter in sales. And my health does not matter. I was trembling now, rage and disbelief coursing through me. My tumor has grown another centimeter in just 1 week. Dr. Winters wants to operate within 3 weeks to prevent rupture. Do you understand what that means? If it ruptures, it could spread cancerous cells throughout my body. You can get one of those payment plans, Jason said dismissively. The hospital will work with you. They always do. I have tried that, I said. The deposit alone is $5,000 that I do not have because I spent my savings after my apartment flooded. I cannot get approved for a medical loan because of my student debt. The debt I have because you two paid for Jason's education but not mine. My mother flinched at this direct accusation. Amanda, that is not fair. We helped you as much as we could. No. What is not fair is that I have put $24,000 into that fund over 12 years. I have never asked for a dime from it. And the one time I genuinely need it for cancer surgery, you decide my brother's desire for a luxury car is more important than my health. We decide how family money is used, my father stated firmly, his face reddening. That has always been the arrangement. Maybe if you got a better job like me, you would not need to beg for money, Jason added with a smirk. Something inside me broke at that moment. The pain, fear, and accumulated injustice of years crystallized into a clarity I had never experienced before. Let me make sure I understand, I said, my voice steady despite the tears threatening. I have been experiencing excruciating pain for weeks. I cannot sleep. I can barely work. I have a tumor that could be cancerous growing inside me. I need surgery that I cannot afford despite having insurance and a full-time job. And your response is to take money that I contributed to our family emergency fund and use it to buy my brother, who has never faced a real hardship in his life, a luxury car with heated seats and a premium sound system. Taylor looked thoroughly uncomfortable now, staring at her dessert, as if it held the secrets of the universe. My mother had the decency to look somewhat ashamed, but my father remained unmoved. You are being melodramatic, Amanda, he said. You have always been jealous of your brother. This decision is final. Melodramatic, I stood up, lifting my shirt just enough to show the visible swelling on my right side. This is the tumor, Dad. This is what is happening to me while you shop for cars with Jason. I had to cancel my first surgery date because I could not make the deposit. Every day we wait increases the risk. But please tell me more about how Jason needs leather seats. Jason rolled his eyes again. Always the victim, huh, Amanda? Some things never change. I grabbed my purse and walked toward the door, turning back one last time. You know what? You are right about one thing. Some things never change. Including the fact that in this family I will always be worth less than Jason, no matter what the circumstance. I made it to my car before the sobs overtook me. The pain in my abdomen had intensified dramatically during the confrontation, and by the time I reached my apartment, I was doubled over. Michael took one look at me and insisted on driving me to the emergency room. Hours later, a concerned emergency room doctor explained that the stress had caused inflammation around the tumor, exacerbating my symptoms. This situation is becoming urgent, she told me and Michael in the curtained examination area. You need to schedule that surgery as soon as possible. A kind nurse named Ruth brought me water and a warm blanket. Is there anyone who can help you with the costs? She asked gently, after overhearing my conversation with Michael about financial constraints. Family, church, community organizations. My family is the problem, I replied, the irony tasting bitter on my tongue. As we sat in the harsh fluorescent lighting of the emergency room at 2 a.m., something shifted inside me. The machine monitoring my vital signs beeped steadily, marking the moments of my realization. They are never going to help me, I said to Michael, clarity cutting through the pain fog. No matter how serious this gets, they will always choose Jason. I cannot wait for their approval or their help. If I do, I might be waiting. Michael squeezed my hand. So what do you want to do? For the first time in days, I felt certainty amid the chaos. I need to help myself, whatever it takes. The next morning, still sore from the emergency room visit, but fueled by newfound resolve, I called Stephanie. Can you connect me with your cousin Allison, the family lawyer? I need advice. 2 hours later, I was sitting in Allison Parker's downtown office, medical documents and bank statements spread across her desk. She was younger than I expected, perhaps early 30s, with a no-nonsense demeanor and rapid-fire speech that suggested a mind constantly working several steps ahead. So let me get this straight, she said after hearing my story. You have contributed over $24,000 to this joint account. Your name is on the account as a co-owner. The stated purpose was for family emergencies. You have a documented medical emergency requiring surgery. Your parents denied your request to withdraw $15,000 for said surgery. And now they plan to withdraw $30,000 to buy your brother a luxury car. That is correct, I confirmed. She leaned back in her chair, tapping a pen against her notepad. From a legal standpoint, this is actually quite straightforward. As a joint account holder, you have equal rights to withdraw funds. There is no legal requirement for permission from other account holders. Even though we always understood my parents would make the decisions, verbal agreements about who controls a joint account generally hold little legal weight unless formally documented, Allison explained. Banks treat all named account holders equally. Each has full withdrawal rights. So I could just take the money for my surgery. Legally, yes, she confirmed. You could withdraw up to the full amount in the account. However, she added, raising a cautionary finger, I would recommend only withdrawing what you can clearly document as your own contributions or at most the amount needed for your medical expenses. Taking more could potentially give your parents grounds for a civil claim, though even that would be difficult for them to win. I considered this information carefully. What would the consequences be, legally and otherwise? Legally, minimal to none if you stick to your contributions. Familial, that depends on your family dynamics, which sound complicated. But Amanda, from what you have told me, those relationships are already strained, and your health has to come first. I left Allison's office with a clear understanding of my rights and options. The legal path forward was surprisingly simple. The emotional landscape was far more complex. That evening, Michael came over to discuss the situation. We sat on my small balcony watching the sunset paint Pittsburgh's skyline in golds and pinks. If I do this, I said, I might be cutting ties with my family permanently. Dad will see it as a betrayal. Mom will follow his lead. Jason will be furious about losing his car money. Michael considered this, his expression serious. And if you do not do this, best case scenario, I go into significant debt for a surgery I cannot delay much longer. Worst case, I could not finish the sentence. This is not just about money, Michael said quietly. This is about your family consistently choosing your brother's wants over your needs, even when those needs are medical, even when your health is at risk. They are still my family, I whispered. Yes, they are. And you can love them while still protecting yourself, he squeezed my hand. Whatever you decide, I am with you. If you need to recover at my place, my door is open. If you need help with payments, I will help however I can. But Amanda, you have to put yourself first here because they have made it abundantly clear they will not. That night I made my decision. The next morning I gathered 12 years of bank statements documenting my contributions to the family fund. I calculated the exact total $24,250. I prepared a folder with these documents along with my medical records and surgery cost estimates. At 9 a.m., I walked into First National Bank, requested to speak with manager Margaret again, and explained my situation with calm determination. I need to withdraw funds from the joint account for medical expenses, I told her, showing her my documentation. As you can see, I have contributed over $24,000 to this account over the years. Margaret reviewed my paperwork, her expression softening as she examined the medical documents. How much will you be withdrawing today, Miss Wilson? $15,000, I replied, the exact amount needed for my medical expenses. Margaret nodded. As a joint account holder, that is certainly your right. I will need to see your ID and have you complete some paperwork for a withdrawal of this size. As I filled out the forms, my hands trembled slightly, but my resolve remained firm. I provided my identification signed where indicated and waited as Margaret processed the transaction. Would you like this as a cashier's check or should we transfer it to another account, she asked. Transfer to my personal account, please, I replied. I opened a new account at First Community Bank yesterday. Within 30 minutes, the transaction was complete. $15,000 had been moved from the family emergency fund to my new individual account. I had taken less than what I had contributed over the years and exactly what I needed for my medical expenses. As I left the bank, I felt a complex mixture of emotions. Relief that I could now schedule my surgery. Sadness that it had come to this. Anxiety about the inevitable confrontation. But beneath it all was a new sensation, unfamiliar but empowering pride in standing up for myself. My first call was to Dr. Winter's office. I would like to schedule the surgery as soon as possible, I told the receptionist. I can make the deposit today. My next call was to my supervisor, Diane, at Horizon Marketing, explaining that I had secured the funds and would need medical leave beginning the following week. She was supportive, assuring me my projects would be covered and my job secure during recovery. Stephanie immediately organized a meal train with our friend group, ensuring I would have food delivered during my recovery period. Michael arranged to work remotely for the first week after my surgery to help care for me. We transformed half of my living room into a recovery area with extra pillows, easily accessible necessities, and entertainment options for the bed rest period. Throughout all these preparations, my phone remained conspicuously silent. No calls or texts from my parents or Jason. I had decided not to inform them of my actions until after my surgery was scheduled and all arrangements made. This was my health, my decision, and for once I was putting myself first. The evening before my surgery, Michael stayed over to help with final preparations. As we sat on my couch, the reality of what I had done finally hit me. What if they never forgive me? I asked, tears spilling onto my cheeks. What if this is the end of my relationship with my family? Michael held me as I cried, stroking my hair gently. If accessing your own money for life-saving surgery is unforgivable to them, then perhaps the relationship was already broken. Amanda, you did not break it. You just stopped pretending it was whole. I nodded against his shoulder, finding a strange comfort in his words. For the first time in my adult life, I had defied my family's expectations and prioritized my own well-being. The cost might be high, but as I placed a hand over the painful swelling in my abdomen, I knew it was necessary. I am scared about tomorrow, I admitted. The surgery. That too. But mostly the aftermath, facing them, standing my ground. Michael kissed my forehead. You are stronger than you know, Amanda. You have always been. Tomorrow you will start healing physically, and maybe this is the first step in healing other parts of your life too. As I drifted off to sleep that night, I realized I had spent years being the perfect daughter, the responsible sister, the faithful contributor, always putting others before myself. Tomorrow would mark the end of that chapter, and the beginning of something new, something undeniably mine. The surgery went smoothly. Dr. Winters successfully removed the tumor, which was larger than expected, but to my immense relief, proved benign upon biopsy. I spent one night in the hospital before Michael brought me home to begin recovery. By the second day post-surgery, I was settled in my makeshift recovery area in the living room, surrounded by pillows, pain medication, and a stack of novels I had been meaning to read. Michael had stepped out briefly to pick up my prescriptions when the first call from my mother came through. I let it go to voicemail, not yet ready for the conversation in my groggy post-anesthesia state. Within minutes, my phone began lighting up with notifications. 3 more calls from my mother, 2 from my father, 5 text messages from Jason, each more aggressive than the last. When Michael returned, he checked my phone and raised his eyebrows. I think they discovered the money is missing. How many messages? I asked. 23 in total. Do you want me to play the voicemails? I nodded, bracing myself. The first was from my mother, her voice confused. Amanda, we just came from the bank. There seems to be some mistake with the account. Please call us back immediately. The second, also from my mother, showed rising concern. Amanda, the bank says $15,000 was withdrawn yesterday. We need to report this fraud. Call us now. My father's message was predictably more direct. Amanda, call us immediately about the missing money. This is serious. The final voicemail was from Jason, his voice seething with rage. You selfish bitch, you stole my car money. After everything Mom and Dad have done for you, you had better answer your phone or I swear to God. Michael stopped the playback. That is enough of that. Are you okay? I closed my eyes, feeling the surgical incision pull slightly as I took a deep breath. I knew this was coming. I just hoped to have a few more days to recover first. We can turn off your phone, Michael suggested. They do not know you had surgery yesterday. You need rest. As if on cue, a loud pounding at my apartment door made us both jump. Michael peeked through the peephole and sighed. It is your parents. And Jason, he said quietly. Do you want me to send them away? I considered it, tempted by the easy out, but postponing the inevitable would only prolong the anxiety. Let them in. Might as well get this over with. Michael opened the door with a polite but cool greeting. Amanda is recovering from surgery. Please keep your voices down and try not to upset her. My father pushed past him, my mother and Jason following closely behind. They stopped short when they saw me on the recliner, clearly post-surgical, with my hospital bracelet still on my wrist and medical supplies visible on the side table. What is all this? My father demanded, gesturing to my setup. Is this some kind of act to justify what you did? No act, Dad, I replied, my voice hoarse from the intubation during surgery. I had my tumor removed yesterday morning, the one I told you about, the reason I needed the money. My mother's eyes widened as she took in the details, from the prescription bottles to the surgical dressing visible beneath my loose t-shirt. Jason, however, seemed unmoved. You stole our money, he accused, pointing a finger at me. $30,000 gone because of you. 15,000, I corrected calmly. I took exactly what I needed for my medical expenses, and it was my money, Jason. I contributed over $24,000 to that account over 12 years. That does not matter, my father shouted, causing me to wince, as the loud noise triggered a pain spike. That account was for family emergencies to be distributed at our discretion. My tumor was a family emergency, I replied. A real one, not a luxury car purchase. It was not just for his car, my mother interjected, though her protest lacked conviction. Really? Because Jason has been texting pictures of Audis for a week, talking about how you and Dad were helping him buy one. My father's face reddened. That is beside the point. You had no right to take that money without our permission. Michael, who had been standing protectively near my recliner, spoke up. Actually, she had every legal right. As a joint account holder, Amanda was entitled to withdraw funds. She took less than she contributed and only what she needed for a legitimate medical emergency. "Stay out of this," my father snapped at him. "This is family business." "Michael is family to me," I said firmly. "He has been here supporting me through surgery while you three were shopping for luxury cars." "You could have waited," my mother said, though she was now looking at my pale complexion and surgical aftercare with growing concern. "Found another way. The tumor grew a centimeter in 1 week. Mom," Dr. Winters said, waiting, "increased the risk of rupture, which could have spread cancerous cells. Should I have risked my life to protect Jason's car fund?" "It was not cancerous though, was it?" Jason asked smugly. "So all this drama was for nothing." "We did not know that until after it was removed yesterday," I replied. "And even benign tumors can cause serious complications if they rupture or grow too large. But thank you for your medical expertise, Dr. Jason." My sarcasm was not lost on him. "After all we have done for you," he sputtered. "What exactly have you done for me, Jason?" I asked. "Used family funds repeatedly for your mistakes while I contributed faithfully. Gotten every advantage while I worked multiple jobs through college. Please enlighten me." "That Audi would have changed my life," he blurted, revealing the truth in his anger. "And this surgery saved mine," I countered. "That is the difference you have never understood." My mother had moved closer, her anger seemingly tempered by the visible evidence of my surgery. "You really had it done yesterday. Why did you not tell us?" "Would you have cared, Mom? You dismissed every attempt I made to explain how serious this was. You changed the subject to Jason's promotion when I told you the tumor was growing." She had the grace to look ashamed. "I did not realize." "You did not want to realize," I corrected her gently. "It was easier to ignore my needs than to acknowledge that you and Dad have always prioritized Jason." My father, unmoved by the medical evidence before him, continued his offensive. "This is theft, Amanda. We could press charges." Michael laughed at this, a short, incredulous sound. "For withdrawing her own money from a joint account for documented medical expenses, please go ahead and try. I am sure the press would love that story." My father's face contorted with rage. "Is that a threat?" "It is reality," I said, wincing as I shifted position. "Dad, I am not asking for your approval anymore. I did what I needed to do for my health. The tumor is out. It was benign, thankfully, though we did not know that beforehand. I took only what I needed and less than I contributed. You still have $30,000 in the account, which is more than Jason's portion. Do what you want with that." My mother seemed to finally notice my discomfort. "Amanda, you look pale. Should you be resting?" "Yes," Michael answered before I could. "Her doctor ordered minimal stress during recovery. This confrontation is not helping." "We are not finished discussing this," my father insisted. "Yes, we are," I said firmly. "At least for today. I am in pain, I am tired, and I need to rest. You can be angry with me, you can be disappointed. But I will not apologize for taking care of my health when you refuse to help me." "You are dead to me," Jason spat as he headed for the door. "Do not expect any favors from me ever again." "When have I ever received favors from you, Jason?" I asked, but he was already storming out. My parents lingered awkwardly, caught between concern and continuing anger. Finally, my father shook his head. "This conversation is not over." "I know," I acknowledged, "but it is over for today." Michael showed them out firmly, closing and locking the door behind them. When he returned to my side, I was trembling, the confrontation having drained what little energy I had. "You did amazing," he said, adjusting my pillows and checking my temperature. "I am so proud of you." "I feel terrible," I admitted, tears flowing freely now. "And not just physically. I never wanted it to come to this." "I know, but they left you no choice. And Amanda, for what it is worth, I think you just stood up to them for the first time in your life. That counts for something." That night was difficult, the emotional strain exacerbating my physical discomfort, but beneath the pain and sadness was a small, growing sense of liberation. I had broken the pattern of compliance that had defined my relationship with my family for 28 years. Whatever came next would be on new terms, terms that included respect for my needs and well-being. The next morning, I was surprised to receive a text message from my mother. "How are you feeling today? Did the doctor say the surgery went well?" No mention of the money, no acknowledgement of the confrontation, just a mother asking about her daughter's health. It was a small opening, but an opening nonetheless. The 2 months following my surgery were a period of parallel healing, both physical and emotional. My body recovered steadily under Dr. Winter's care, the incision healing cleanly, the pain gradually subsiding. My relationship with my family, however, required more complex treatment with less certain outcomes. My mother began sending tentative text messages every few days, asking about my recovery and offering surface-level conversation that carefully avoided any mention of the emergency fund. At first, I responded with brief, factual updates, maintaining emotional distance while leaving the door slightly ajar. 3 weeks after surgery, I found a small care package outside my apartment door. Inside were homemade oatmeal cookies, my childhood favorite, a novel I had mentioned wanting to read months ago, and herbal tea. There was no note, but I recognized my mother's baking immediately. The care package was followed a week later by a text inviting me to meet for coffee when you feel up to it. After consulting with Michael, who advised caution but supported reconnection if I wanted it, I agreed to meet her at a cafe halfway between our homes. That first meeting was awkward, with long silences and careful navigation around sensitive topics. But as we were finishing our coffees, my mother surprised me. "I have been thinking about what you said," she admitted, staring into her empty cup, "about us always prioritizing Jason. I never saw it that way, but looking back, there is a pattern there." It was not a full acknowledgement and certainly not an apology, but it was more self-awareness than she had ever shown before. "Why do you think that happened?" I asked gently. She sighed. "Jason was always the squeaky wheel. You were so self-sufficient, so responsible. It was easy to assume you were fine, that you did not need us as much. Being responsible should not have meant being ignored, Mom." "No," she agreed quietly. "It should not have." We parted with a tentative hug and plans to meet again the following week. It was a small step, but a meaningful one. My father maintained his distance, communicating only through my mother. Jason sent a single text weeks after the confrontation. "Mom says your surgery went okay. Good for you." The bare minimum of acknowledgement, but from Jason even that was unexpected. As my physical strength returned, I found myself thinking about finances differently. I opened a personal emergency fund account, setting up automatic transfers from each paycheck. I researched financial literacy resources and signed up to teach a free class at the community center, wanting to help others avoid the vulnerabilities I had experienced. My 6-month post-surgery follow-up with Dr. Winters brought the best possible news: no signs of regrowth, all markers normal. Michael took me out for a celebration dinner with Stephanie and a few close friends, a night of laughter and relief that felt like crossing an important threshold. To Amanda, Michael toasted, raising his glass, who fought for her health and found her voice in the process. It was true. Something fundamental had shifted in me. I no longer waited for permission or approval before advocating for my needs. The people-pleasing habit of a lifetime had been broken by necessity, and I found I preferred the authenticity that had replaced it. When Thanksgiving approached, I received a surprising invitation from my mother to join the family dinner. "Your father wants you there too," she added. "And you can bring Michael, of course." I debated declining, but ultimately decided to go with Michael as my support system. The dinner was tense, but civil, with conversations carefully limited to safe topics like work, weather, and upcoming holidays. As we were helping clear the table, my father paused beside me. "You are looking well," he said gruffly, the closest thing to approval he had offered since the confrontation. "I am well, Dad," I replied simply. "The surgery was successful." He nodded, seemingly unsure how to proceed. "Good. That is good." Jason maintained a cool distance throughout the evening, though I noticed his girlfriend Taylor watching our family dynamics with keen interest. As I was getting my coat to leave, she approached me in the hallway. "I just wanted to say," she said quietly, "I thought you were right. About the fund, I mean. Jason does not know I am telling you this, but I was uncomfortable with the whole car situation. It did not seem fair." Her words were unexpected validation, a confirmation that the inequity had been visible even to outsiders. The most significant moment in my family's slow reconciliation came unexpectedly 6 months after the surgery. My father experienced chest pains at work and was taken to the hospital. Though it turned out to be acid reflux rather than a heart attack, the scare created a moment of vulnerability that cut through the lingering tension. I rushed to the hospital despite our strained relationship, arriving to find my mother teary-eyed in the waiting room. The relief on her face when she saw me was genuine, as was my concern for my father. When we were allowed to see him looking small and mortal in the hospital bed, something softened in both of us. "Thank you for coming," he said, his voice lacking its usual gruffness. "Of course I came," I replied. "You are my father." Something passed between us in that moment, a wordless acknowledgement that family bonds persisted even through conflict. Not forgiveness exactly, but perhaps the beginning of a path toward it. By the 1-year anniversary of my surgery, enough healing had occurred both physically and relationally for my mother to suggest a family dinner to celebrate my health. To my surprise, my father added, "It will be our treat to recognize what you went through." During that dinner over dessert, my father cleared his throat in the way that always preceded a significant statement. "I need to say something," he began awkwardly. "About last year. About the fund." The table fell silent, even Jason looking up from his phone. "I was wrong," my father said, the words clearly difficult for him. "Your health should have come first. I was too rigid about the rules and too partial in how I applied them." He did not look at Jason as he said this last part, but the implication was clear. It was not a perfect apology, but from my father it was monumental. "Thank you for saying that, Dad," I replied simply. Later that evening, as Michael and I walked to his car, he squeezed my hand. "That was huge for your dad." It was, I agreed. Not perfect, but progress. "Are you happy with where things stand with your family now?" I considered the question carefully. Not entirely. There is still work to do. Jason is still Jason. Mom still enables everyone. Dad still struggles to show emotion, but they are trying in their way. And more importantly, I have changed. I do not need their approval the way I once did. On the anniversary of my surgery, Michael proposed during a weekend trip to the mountains. As I said yes, surrounded by autumn foliage and clear blue skies, I reflected on how much had changed in a year. The tumor that had threatened my health had ultimately led to healing deeper wounds, forcing honesty and growth in unexpected ways. My new relationship with my family is still evolving, still fragile in some areas. We are learning to communicate more openly, to acknowledge the patterns of the past without being defined by them. Jason shows occasional glimmers of maturity, though entitlement remains his default setting. My parents try in their imperfect way to be more equitable. As for me, I continue to teach financial literacy at the community center, helping others establish their own safety nets. I maintain firm boundaries about money with my family, keeping my finances entirely separate now. And I approach relationships, including family ones, with a new understanding that love sometimes requires standing firm rather than giving in. The emergency fund situation was painful, but it taught me that my health, both physical and emotional, must be my priority. No one else can or will advocate for my well-being if I do not. This does not mean becoming selfish or uncaring, but rather recognizing that self-care is the foundation that allows us to care for others sustainably. For anyone facing similar family dynamics or health challenges, I hope my story offers some reassurance that it is possible to break unhealthy patterns, to prioritize your needs without guilt, and to find strength you might not know you possess. The path forward may not be straight or easy, but it is yours to walk on your own terms. Have you ever had to stand up to your family for your own well-being? Or had to make a difficult choice between keeping the peace and advocating for yourself? Share your experiences in the comments below. I read every comment and would love to hear your stories. And if this resonated with you, please like and subscribe for more stories about finding strength through life's challenges. Thank you for listening, and remember, sometimes the bravest thing you can do is put yourself first.